define what is a slicer. Okay, we will start with understanding what exactly slicer is all about, and how we can use the slicer, and what are the different types of slicers that are available, and what are the limitations of the slicers. That also we will take a look at it. Okay, so what is a slicer? Slicer is used to filter the visuals. We have already seen, right? So when I explained to you about a couple of things, like 1 second, let me just go here. I opened some other thing here. Anyhow, let it be there. So here, for example, this is the V slicer. Okay, this is the slicer. I just click on the slicer visual. Right. So using slicer, we can filter the visuals. We can filter the visuals, right, across your within the same page, or you can filter it across the pages. By using slicer, we can visualize more than 2 charts by connecting. No, it is not like that. Using filters, right, slicer, you can apply the filter to the visuals that are there in your page, okay, in your report page. What I will do is I'll just click on this, and then we will start with the region wise sales. We will take a look at sales by region. That is what we can see it here. And then the next one is probably I can use the clustered bar chart. Okay, and what else we have here? That's all right. And here I'm going to use okay. I'm going to select something like the year, and I'll just put it here. Here I just use the list slicer. Here I'm going to select 2013 and 2014. So we can see that whatever the selections, what are the selections that you make it here as part of a slicer, the other visuals will get filtered based on the values that you selected it here, right? So that is what is happening here. And the next one is, for example, if I select another visual slicer, if I put the category here, or country also we can use it. So here I'm going to select only the technology and furniture, and then I'm going to select 2000 and 2014. For these two category, and for these 2 years, what is the sales? Okay, sales by technology and sales by profit by category. And let me do one thing. Instead of sales by region is fine. Now the country, instead of that, I'm going to use sales here. Okay, this is sales by category and profit by category. We can see that. I just move this up and I move this down here. So, okay, and these are the things we can see it here, right? So now you understood when you use a slicer, it can filter what are the selections that you make it as part of a slicer. It can filter the in the visuals, right? It filters the values across the visuals. Okay, so the advantage here is the slicer provides an easier and more convenient way to the end user to filter the visuals. Okay, and it is very user friendly, isn't it? Right, the report users can pick and choose what they want to be displayed on the visuals. Okay, and apart from this, the Power BI slices or Canvas visual filters. It is used to provide an easier and more convenient way the end users to filter the visuals. For example, you share the report to the uh, reports to your manager, okay, and he doesn't know the ABCs of Power BI desktop. You simply share the report, and what is just looking at this, and he just curious to know only the reason to yes, what is the performance in furniture and technology category. Right, it's a profit, you can see it, and you can see the sales only specific to the selections, only specific to these two categories, and this is here. The visuals are getting updated, right? So whatever the selling, for example, if I want to see the office supplies and technology put together, what is the sales, right? So you can, the slicers make the report more interactive. Okay, instead of being, supposing you don't have slicer, what will happen? Whatever the visuals that you shared it with him, you can see only that one, isn't it? You cannot get any additional insight. You cannot go extra mile and do the slicing and dicing. So what you can do is with the help of the slicers, you can make a selections, right? So we can make a selection based on the selections, whatever we made, the visuals are getting filtered. Okay, got it. So that is what the advantage of this one. And the next one is the types of slices. What are the types of slices? Yeah, before we jump in the types of slices, let us understand what are the limitations with the slicer visual. Slicer is also visual. Okay. The Power BI does not provide support for input fields. We have something called input fields. You remember in the case of column from examples in the Power Query editor, we have seen something like column from examples. There we can input the values, right? Based on the values that you inputted, it learns the pattern, and based on the pattern it learns, it extract the values from your source column. That is what. So right, so we don't have any options to input it here. Simply you can make a selection, you cannot type anything here. There is no support for drill down, right? So you don't have any support for drill down here, and there is no option for pinning a slicer to a dashboard. So in the in the cloud, you cannot, you can create the dashboard there. Look here, here. Not here. I just opened it. I think I closed it. No, it is there here. So this is your cloud. Okay, for example, if you go to the workspace here, and if you select Dev to Sandbox, so this is your dashboard. Okay, and what you see is a dashboard, and this one already I created it. So this one is report, and this is your data flow, and this is your data set, right? So when you publish a report, along with that, the data set also getting published to the cloud automatically. And this is the data flow. how to create a data flow, we already discussed it, right? So if you go here, a new, and you can create a data flow here by clicking on it. So data flow is nothing but the Power Query editor on the cloud. That is what we have seen it. And the next one is when you see this icon, this is nothing but your dashboard. Let me just open this dashboard. Let me see what is there. So in the dashboard, you cannot pin a slicer. Okay, in the dashboard, you cannot pin a slicer. You cannot use a slicer here. Okay, here nothing is there. 1 second. Let me just go back. Execute dashboard, something like that. So here you have this one, right? And you cannot pin anything to this, the dashboard. For example, if I go back here, sorry, the slicer, you cannot combine multiple sheet and drill through cross report. Let me do one thing. If I go here, just give me a second. I have a visit. Page 1, and 1 second. So here I don't have any. Okay, I'll just show you later. So in the case of dashboard, you cannot use a slicer. That is one limitation. And you cannot use, we cannot use visual level filters. For example, if whatever the selection that I make it, that one should apply only to a specific visual. Supposing if I select this visual, whatever the selections that I make it, only this selections or the filter should apply only to this visual. Is it possible? It is not possible. Visual level filter you cannot change. See, it depends on, the Prabhat, that is a different thing. If you make any changes in the source system, you need to refresh the data if you have connected with the import mode. If you use the direct mode, obviously it will show the current data. Okay, in the SQL server, if you use direct query mode, it will show that one. I'm talking about the limitations. Okay, you cannot use visual level filters in slices. You can do it with filters. We have something called filters here. Look here. When you click on this, there is a separate pane for filters. Here you can apply the filters to a specific visual. Only for this visual, only if you want to apply some filters, that is possible. But in the case of slicer, it is not possible. Visual level filter, you cannot do it. Whatever the selection that you make it, that will be reflected across the visuals. Okay, the corresponding data will be updated in all the visuals. I don't want that. I wanted to update the changes or whatever the selection that I make it here. The corresponding data should show only in a specific visual. That is not possible. So in that case, you have something called filters. You can, and also Power BI slices doesn't support measures. You cannot use measures here. Okay, we'll discuss about measures as part of DAX, don't worry. And then the numeric range slicer. We have something called numeric range slicer that is valid only for Power BI desktop. The numeric slicer, okay. And then we have something called, let me put it in mute, my mobile phone. I'm getting disturbed because today some release is going on. Okay, and so now you understood what is a slicer. Slicer is, it's nothing but a filter. It sits on top of your report canvas. Okay, it is very user friendly. Which one? The slicer. There are different types of slicers are available. One is the text slicer. What you are seeing is the text slicer, this one. And then the numeric range slicer. Text slicer, 1 second. Let me just go to my PowerPoint and see if types of slicers. Text slicer and numeric range slicer and relative date slicer and relative time slicers. And then responsive, resizable slicer and hierarchy slicers with multiple fields. So these are the types of, look at this, a text one, and you have a month column, right? So in that case, you have a numeric value in it. This is a numeric slicer. The numeric slicer is available only in Power BI desktop. It is not available in cloud. You cannot use it. And then you have the relative date slicer, okay, date slicer. And then you have relative time slicer is also available. And then responsive resizable slicers and hierarchy slicers and multiple fields are also possible. Okay, date slicer, numeric slicer. These are the one most commonly used: text slicer, numeric slicer, date slicer. Okay, now we will just I just go to the Power BI desktop, and here we will try to understand. Okay, now the question is, so what are the options are available in the case of slicer, text slicer itself? If you click on the drop down here, right, so you have two options: list or drop down. So the default one is the list in the case of slicer, text slicer, and you can also choose a drop down. If you choose drop down, right, you can save a lot of space here. And then if you click on the drop down here, it can display all the categories here. Look here, if you click here, so you need to click on this, and then you can select whatever you wanted. But in the case of slicer, if you want to, select more than one item, you need to hold the control key, and then only you can select it. Okay, I want to clear the selections, whatever I made it. Then you need to click on the eraser icon. It will clear everything, okay? It will display all the, it will remove the filters, basically. And this is your numeric slicer, okay? Because the year is numeric data. For example, if I go to the data view here, and if I select the calendar here, the year, if I select the year column, whole number, it's a whole number, is a numeric slicer. This is a text slicer. This is a numeric slicer. If you click on the drop down here, you have a lot of options are available. In the case of text slicer, you have only list and drop down. But in this case, you have something called between and less than or equal to, greater than or equal to option is available. Drop down, you know very well. So you are comfortable with drop down and list. And then between. Okay, this is, here in the case of between, you have a slider. If you move this slider towards the left side, the range will change. Okay, and if you move this towards this one, 2011 to 2012, if you move the slider towards the right side, the maximum value will be there. Okay, and if you don't want to start from 2011, hence you need to drag the slider from the left side towards the left side to the right side. Okay, so these are the options are available. And then you have less than or equal to. Okay, so the left side will be, disabled, but and you can use this one using the slider also. You can, so anything less than or equal to 2012. Okay, if you want to see that, you can use less than. Similarly, the greater than or equal to. In the case of greater than or equal to, the right side will get disabled, and you can use this one. Okay, anything, 2011, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. It is self-explanatory, very simple one. Between is also very simple one. Instead of using the list or draw, right? So usually what they do is they use the uh, between. Okay, between in the case of numeric slicer. Okay, text slicer, we have explored only the list and drop down is available. Whereas in the case of numeric slicer, we have list, drop down, and then we have between, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Options are available. And then the date slicer. So here I'm going to select the, for example, if I put here, you don't have the date here. For example, if I put order date here. Okay, this is called your relative date slicer. And if you click on the drop down here, you'll find a lot of options. Okay, you have something called between, and the default one is between and before. Right, anything before 3112. If you want to see it, you can see it. And then anything after, right, the opposite of before. And then list. So list is a very long one. Okay, in the case of date, it is not recommended to use list. And drop down, list drop down is common. And then relative date, use something called relative date. For example, last 10 days, you want to see the performance. Or if you want to see last 10 weeks, or if you see the next 10 weeks, right? So this is called your relative date and relative time. If you have the time data, right, you can do it. But here you have something like minutes. But in our data set, I don't have the minutes here. Last 10 minutes, next 10 minutes, and this minute, right, up to this minute. Here, up to this, this hour, right, this hour, this minute, whatever thing, right? So that is what you can do it. So you can see many options that are available as part of the date slicer. It is also called as a relative date slicer and a relative time slicer. Okay, here you have the relative time, relative date. With the help of the relative date, you can choose the last 15 days or starting from days to years, right? You have last 10 weeks, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, whatever you want. You can do it with the date slicer. And then you have the responsive resizable slicers. For example, I'm going to create another slicer. In this case, I just drop the country here. For example, if I drop the country here, drop down or list is available. Since we have more countries available, what I will do is I'll just go to the format format option. Here the slicer settings, if you see here vertical, right? Here what you can do is you can make it horizontal. This is called your resizable slices. Responsive resizable slicer. If you drag this, can probably put it on top of this one. And also you can resize it. For example, I don't want to have the 2 rows, single rows. If I want, I can have it. If you want to see other, we have a lot of countries are available here. And if you want to scroll, right, you can click on this scroll bar. If you want to see other rest of the countries, you can click on the scroll bar and you can do it this one also. And if you want to do unselect, you can do so. Hence, it is called a resizable slicer, responsive resizable slicer. And we have something called the hierarchy slicer is also available. What do you mean by hierarchy slicer? I just do one thing. And here for example, here the category and segment. Okay, here what I will do is I'll just select the list and look here. In this case, it displays the category. And if you click on this one, it will get expanded. In the previous version, this is not possible. Okay, now it is possible. You can create hierarchy in the visuals, in the slicer. So what is a slicer? Slicer is kind of a filter. Using slicers, you can apply the filters across the visuals in your report page. It is very user friendly. It sits on top of the report canvas. And limitations we already discussed, right? So the limitations are something like you cannot pin a slicer on a dashboard, and you cannot you cannot input values in a slicer. Okay, those are the limitations. And apart from the types of slices we discussed now, the text slicer and numeric range slicer and relative date slicer and relative time slicers, responsive and resizable slices also we discussed. And also finally we discussed about what is this? What is this? This is your hierarchy slicer with multiple fields. Okay, now what I do is I just remove the segment here. We will explore the important formatting options that are available here. I just go here, slices settings. If you want, you can use vertical. The default one is vertical in the case of text slicer, and then horizontal is also available. So when you select horizontal, it will become responsive, resizable one. And then you have something called single select, multi-select with multiple selections and checkboxes only when control or command box. Okay, multiple select with control or command. So look here, in this case, I am going to toggle this off. If I want to select more than one item in the slicer, you need to hold the control key by default. At a time, you can make only one selection. If you want to make more than one selection, you need to hold the control key and then you select it. But I don't want to hold the control key to make more than one selection. Then you need to toggle this off. Multi-select, right? So allow multiple checkboxes only when control or command plus click is used. Control and click. You need to hold the control key if you want to make more than one selection. If you disable this by toggling this off, you don't have to hold the control key. Okay, and the next option is here, select all as an option in the slicer. For example, if I click on this one, there's something select all, right? So you can select everything. Instead of selecting one, right? You can select it like this. And if I want to select only the furniture, or if I exclude this one, all the things, okay, and I want to select all the things. Sorry, if I select everything, right? That is what select all, this option will get enabled. And then single select on, if you use single select on, what will happen? Radio button will come. At a time, you can select only one item here. You can apply filter, you can apply filter based on the only one item that you selected it here. But in practical, it is not much helpful. If you want it, you can use it. Now the question is, when can I use this single select option? Okay. What kind of scenario single select is used? Why did they keep this option here? Supposing you have a column called gender, male or female, right? So the user should either select or male or female. We are not supposed to allow him to select both. Okay, in that kind of situation, you can go for single select. Anyhow, I'm going to toggle this off. Rarely we will be using the single select option. Hope you understood these options, right? Select all these things, you have seen it. And then slider and values. If you see here, the font size, everything, rest of them same. The border also, it's all very common one. We have already discussed about this. And then the title is off. You can enable on. Okay, you can give enable on, and you can give some name for this slicer. This is something like category. The title of this one is category. You can give this, or if you don't want to, you don't have to give this one, but you can give title here. Okay, the slicer, so that you will get to know what slicer is all about. And effects background. If you want to give any effects, you can enable this background. You can give some color. Visual border on, you can give some border, like this. Okay, if you want, you can give it. And for example, here, the slices settings, values, and border. Yeah, in the case of border, if you slide this slightly towards the right side, it is not giving anything here. Once again, see, we have something called border. One second, let me do one thing. Border. In the case of border, visual border. Okay, rounded corners. Yeah. So visual border. In the case of visual border, if you slide this towards the right side slightly, you can get the rectangle rounded corner. Okay, this is far from the aesthetic point of view. Okay, instead of using the rectangle or the square, you can use the rounded rectangle. Okay, visual border. So in the visual border, you can simply you can just type it here. Okay, border. Okay, and if you scroll down here, sometimes you will get confused. Okay, and different borders are there, and you will get confused here. So if you scroll down, you will find visual border. So this is the overall the visual border. This is where you need to select this one if you want the rounded corner. Okay, from the design point of view, to make your report more stylish or a little bit different, right? You can use this one. Okay, and yeah, these are the important features that you should be aware of it. The formatting options. Okay, you should be aware of it. So here analytics features that are not available. In the case of scatter plot, this one was available, right? The analytic features. But in the slicer, we are not going to do any analytics, and this one is not available. These are the common formatting options that we use it. Okay. So hope you understood what is a slicer. Okay, and what are the limitations? The slicers are canvas visual filters using which you can apply the filters, across all the visuals. And the flip side of the Power BI are the drawbacks or limitations. There is no support for drill down. Yeah, that is very important. Drill down is not available. You cannot do drill down in the slicer, and it does not provide input fields. There is no option of pinning a slicer on a dashboard. And what else? You cannot use visual level filters. You cannot apply a filter on a specific visual. Okay, that is not possible. Once you make a selection in your slicer, the relevant values across the visuals will get updated. You cannot apply it to a specific visual. And also, it does not support measures. You cannot use measures as part of your slicer. And the numeric range slicer, as I said, it is valid only in Power BI desktop. And the different types of slices we discussed: the text slicer, numeric range slicer, relative date slicer, and relative time slicers. And then the responsive, this one, the responsive resizable slicers, and then hierarchy slicers. If you want to have a hierarchy, it is possible in the newer version of the Power BI desktop.